We've heard the concern all offseason long that Nebraska's defense will look completely different in 2025, replacing multiple players on the D-line, in the secondary, a brand new defensive coordinator, brand new positional coaches. And for that reason, a lot of Husker fans genuinely believe this unit will take a dramatic step back. So in today's video, I'm going to go over every single shocking change that I expect in this Nebraska defense from a personnel standpoint. Some players who are going to start for the first time ever. Some players who are going to get benched. Some schematic standpoint. Are we still running the 3-3-5? Is the rover still going to be a thing? And so much more. I'm going to go over every single change that I expect for the good, for the bad, and I'll give you an inside scoop on this unit. So really quick, hit that like button if you're fired up. I know I am. And really quick, if you're a diehard Nebraska fan, join this family. It would make my day. Takes 2 seconds. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much. But without further ado, let's get into it. Going over every single change that I expect from this Nebraska defense in 2025, because we know that it's a completely new unit. We're replacing multiple starters all over the defense. We have a brand new coordinator. We have a bunch of brand new positional coaches. So it's not going to look anything like what we saw last year. But what are the changes in particular? Now, I want to get things started talking about our new defensive coordinator, what you can expect from that, because he's going to make changes. It's not going to be Tony White's defense. It's going to be John Butler's defense now. So there's one dramatic change, a couple dramatic changes that I expect actually with John Butler. Number one, and this is for the better, the blitz packages are going to be so much improved in 2025. That was Tony White's biggest failure at Nebraska, was his blitz packages were absolutely terrible. We could not get pressure at all with blitzes. And that's why we really didn't ever blitz, because when we did, we couldn't get to the quarterback. We didn't know how to get separation. We didn't know how to find the hole. That changes with John Butler. In that Boston College game, you saw multiple blitzes got dialed up. We got to the quarterback at a high level. Last year, we talked about this defensive line like it was one of the better in the Big Ten. We weren't even top 40 in the pass rush department in the country last year. We only averaged 2 sacks a game. That changes this year. And the reason why blitz packages are so important is because that's what sets you apart as a defensive coordinator. That's how you creatively get to the quarterback, by finding potentially a DB who blitzes off the edge and has an open lane to the quarterback, a middle linebacker right up the A gap who gets to the quarterback. Okay, the blitz packages need to be unique. They need to be creative. That's how you can be successful as a D coordinator. Tony White didn't know how to do that. And that's why I just didn't get to the quarterback enough. That changes this year. We're going to get to the quarterback a lot more. We're going to have a lot more sacks. Because of that, we're going to get a lot more forced fumbles and a lot of big time plays. So that's the first change that I expect. Second big change, something that's going to be very evident on day one, game one, and this is the secondary. The secondary is going to be so much improved this year. We averaged giving up around 260 passing yards a game last year. That wasn't even top 60 in America. We got burned against teams like UCLA, against USC. Even Wisconsin killed us through the air. Okay, with John Butler's background with the secondary, whether that was with Penn State in the past, the Houston Texans, the Buffalo Bills, he knows how to bring the best out of the secondary from a talent standpoint. But not only that, he knows how to scheme up the secondary. So now the fact that he has this entire defense, that he gets to scheme up the game plan, the secondary is going to be a lot improved. We're not going to be letting these bum quarterbacks pass all over us like a Jaden Malava from last year with USC. So listen, I really expect the secondary to be improved. And it also should be noted that we're not going to have a rover anymore. So get the rover terminology out of your head. It's now just a slot corner. We've completely got rid of the rover. So just call it a slot corner or a nickel corner, which is, again, the traditional term. The rover, in my opinion, it was a failure, right? It was basically an extra safety who wasn't a great player in man coverage in Isaac Gifford. We'd rather just have a corner there who's in the slot, who's really at the NFL position. So rover, they don't have the position in the NFL. They have slot corners. That's what we have now. Then, one thing that I expect to change as well for Nebraska, the turnover department. We're going to force a lot more turnovers in 2025 thanks to John Butler. We only averaged 1.3 turnovers a game last year. That was horrendous. That was 73rd in America. That was one of the worst in the Big Ten. So again, we act like this defense was so good last year. It really wasn't. We couldn't get the football. We couldn't get interceptions. We couldn't force fumbles. We couldn't strip the ball free. That changes this year with John Butler. That's been the focus all throughout spring practice, all throughout summer workouts. How can we flip the field? How can we get a big turnover? That's something I'm looking out for this year. I absolutely expect to change with John Butler. And then last but not least, We're going to have increased flexibility. Again, we're not going to run the 3-3-5 as much. It's still our base defense, but you're going to see a lot more 4 defensive line fronts. You're going to see more 4-3. You're going to see more nickel. You're going to see more secondary players on the field. So again, the 3-3-5, while it's still our base defense, I think we're going to go away from it as the season progresses. Once you get into months like November and it's all about running the football, we're going to go to 4 defensive linemen. We might go, again, to 4 defensive linemen and then a linebacker on the edge. So again, the 3-5 is going to be a lot different. We're not going to be stuck with it like Tony White was. He would not go away from the 3-5. That was one of his biggest flaws, and Matt Rhule did not like that. So that's the big changes. Let's talk about the roster, okay? Why I think the roster, what you can expect from a change standpoint. I think the DBs are going to be so much better. I really do. I think, again, we already talked about the DBs from a schematic standpoint, but again, you really only lost Tommy Hill, who's replaceable. You lost Isaac Gifford. You brought in so many good players, whether that's Andrew Marshall, who I'm very high on, Jameer Khan, who I'm high on, Justin Wright, who's a hidden gem. You got guys like Larry Tarver coming back, who's going to have, a huge jump in his production. Amari Sanders, Jeremiah Charles, Mario Buford. The secondary from a talent standpoint is so much better than what it was last year. So the secondary is going to be improved. We know the linebacker core is going to be improved. You bring back Buda Wright. Nobody ever talks about him for some reason. He's very, very good when he's on the field. You bring in Dasam McCullough. You bring in Marquez Watson-Trent. You used to have Willis McGahee back there still, who's great. You have Vincent Shavers back there still, who's great. So it's a phenomenal linebacker room. It's phenomenal secondary. Obviously, we know the D-line's a concern. Losing Ty, losing James Williams, losing Nash, losing Jamari. But again, you once again bring in a lot of guys. Williams Winery, former 5-star. Jalen George, who was an FCS All-American. You also have guys coming back for another year like Riley Van Poppel, who's going to be really, really good. Keona Davis, who got comparisons to Ndamukong Suh. So I saw that to say this. The only replaceable player on this D-line, in my opinion, irreplaceable player, is Ty Robinson. We're not going to be able to replace him in year 1. But all these other guys are replaceable. We can replace Nash. He was a UDFA. That guy wasn't even drafted. And although he was good, I think Elijah Jeudy can be just as good. I truly believe that. I truly believe we can replace Jamari Butler easily. We can replace a guy like James Williams easily. You know that. So I don't think the D-line is going to take as big of a step back as people are expecting. I think it might actually take a step forward because it's going to be so much better at rushing the passer than what it was last year. It probably is going to be worse than a run-stopping standpoint, but from rushing the passer, it's going to be so much better. And that's going to be huge for Nebraska because we just couldn't get to the quarterback last year. That changes with Mr. John Butler. And then once again, from a staff standpoint, I think bringing in Phil Snow is huge from a game planning standpoint. We're going to be very comfortable in uncomfortable situations now because we have a guy like Phil Snow who's an advisor with his defense. He's going to be helping game planning. He's going to be helping development. He's an OG, right? He's been around the block a couple times. So getting a guy like Phil Snow is going to be huge in these close game situations, having a guy who's been game playing for a very long time at a high level. You bring in a guy like Phil Simpson, who is going to be awesome in developing these outside linebackers, these jacks, making them true pass rushers. Terry Brayan's one of the best defensive line coaches already in America with his history with the Kansas City Chiefs. And then you bring Addison Williams, who I'm very high on, who might be Nebraska's next defensive coordinator if John Butler were to take another job. So, listen, I just think the perception around this defense is too negative. It's too negative. People think it's going to take a step back. We lose this, we lose that. It's not going to take a step back. If anything, it's going to take a huge step forward. It got better in almost every single way. And I think John Butler, I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised. He's actually going to be a pretty significant upgrade from Tony White from a schematic standpoint. I'm excited to see what we do. So, all right, guys, I want to hear your thoughts down below. What are you expecting from Nebraska's defense in 2025? Let me know your thoughts. Hey, if you made this far in the video, hit that like button and subscribe. As always, folks, go Greg, go Matt Rhule, and I'll see you in the next one.